good segue for the next for our next presentation, which is off by Dr. Michelle S. Eusebio, a colleague of mine at the Science Society program in the College of Science in UP Diliman, where she teaches STS. She has a bachelor's degree in chemistry, but decided to go into archaeology and anthropology. That's where she got her PhD in the University of Florida. And she came back to the Philippines and decided to join the Science and Society program. And she is the only one in the College of Science at the moment who has a social science background. Most of us are in the natural sciences. Her topic, which is doing cooking, culinary heritage in Southeast Asia to archaeological chemistry, is actually part of her major research work, which is how can you detect what people ate in the past to organic residues in the cookware that people used before. So without further ado, I give the floor to Dr. Michelle Eusebio.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Slide share po.
Yeah. Can I ask the webinar administrators to let Dr. Eusebio share her slides?
Yeah, so good morning to all. My presentation is basically my general research combining chemistry and archaeology to address questions to the obvious important thing to everyone, food. So yeah, it's nice to know about the cocido gallego as possible precursor of puchero. Nagutom na ako. Okay.
Can you share your slides na? Or do you still have problems? Okay, can we ask the administrators to make Dr. Eusebio?
Able.
Huh?
It said host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay. Can we ask the administrators to allow her to share the screen? Great. I hope it's there.
Okay.
Okay na? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah. This is my Southeast Asian countries such as the Philippines and Vietnam are well known for the rich diversity of cuisines where they have unique tastes and characteristic ingredients used to prepare their food. However, we rarely discuss in the archaeology of this region about the early development and variation of these cuisines, which potentially or actually have their origins more than 2,000 years ago. This is despite the ubiquity of material culture of foodways, such as clay cooking pots and stoves in the archaeological record of the region. Hence, to evaluate the development of contemporary cuisines across the region, an understanding of the emergence of Asian foodways in the region is required. Cuisine is part of the larger foodways, which is a chain operatoire that comprises the interconnected stages of the production and procurement, processing, distribution, storage, cooking, presentation, and eating of food. Cuisine or culinary practice, which my research actually focuses on, comprises the preparation and consumption of food. So specifically, this presentation is about my application of an archaeological chemical approach to explore and deduce Asian culinary practices. It starts from the selection of pottery samples after the recovery from archaeological site excavations. Samples are documented prior to their destructive sampling. Organic compounds such as lipids or fats and oils are then extracted from ground samples and converted into volatile forms prior to their analysis with chromatographic and mass spectrometric techniques. The resulting biomolecular profiles may infer the former food content of the pots. This approach is well known as organic residue analysis, which utilizes analytical organic chemical techniques to identify the nature and origins of organic remains that cannot be characterized using traditional techniques of archaeological investigation. So where these organic remains came from? In this case, biomolecular or organic compounds from foodstuff prepared, cooked, and served on pottery are absorbed and, in many instances, preserved on the matrix of pottery. These compounds could be lipids, proteins, carbohydrates or starches, alkaloids, and other compounds. So please note the swamp cabbage or the kangkong, which is the food example with a star. Focusing on lipids, they could be fatty acids, acylglycerides, alkanes, polycosanols, or long-chain alcohols, sterols, and terpenoids. They are detectable with analytical techniques like gas chromatography and mass spectrometry or GCMS, where we can get a chromatogram as results. Going back to our star example from the previous slide, the GCMS analysis detected that the experimental cooking pot used for cooking the swamp cabbage or kangkong has fatty acids, alkanes, and long-chain alcohols. Food crust or charred interior surface residues on pottery also undergo bulk stable isotopic analysis before further processing, similar to pottery. This is due to former food contents may also be elucidated using bulk carbon and nitrogen isotopic ratios derived from these residues. The variation in delta 13C values is principally due to differences in photosynthetic pathway of the primary producers and their consumers. C3 plants with more negative delta 13C values follow the Calvin-Benson cycle, while C4 plants, which are arid adapted and tropical grasses, with less negative delta 13C values follow the Hatch-Lack cycle. Delta 15N values reflect differences in trophic levels where primary and secondary consumers tend to have higher delta 15N values than primary producers. So I have projects in the Philippines and Vietnam, which I am presenting some interesting results in vignettes. So aside from the archaeological pottery, I also analyze experimental and ethnographic cooking pots as modern comparative reference materials. My master's thesis back in 2008 to 2010 at the Archaeological Studies Program, University of the Philippines, involved the processing and analysis of a few earthenware pottery from the 13th to 14th century layer of Dizon 1 site, Babo Balukbo, Porac, Pampanga. Consolidating the findings from the fatty acid ratios and proximity of retention times of unidentified components through GC flame ion detection analysis, it is likely that 2 pots were used to process pork or any terrestrial mammalian meat, 2 pots were used to process any meat, and 3 pots were used to process meat and or plants. With the archaeological data available, the results seem to indicate that the people living in Porac, Pampanga during the 13th to 14th century possibly utilized mostly terrestrial resources such as land animals, rice, nuts, and woody plants for their daily consumption. There is also slight possibility that they utilize fish or any riverine animals since the site is just nearby the Porac River. In 2012 and 2013, I was involved with Ifugao Archaeological Project. I got opportunities to handle 2 pottery sherds from 2012 fieldwork and joined their 2013 fieldwork to collect more samples in the old Kayangan village of Ifugao Rice Terraces, which is a World Heritage Site with other rice terraces of the Cordilleras. According to the recent findings of this project, terrace building at the Ifugao only started after 1585, so hence, we are dealing with Ifugao foodways before the rice terraces were built. Referring to the aerial view from the previous slide and the profile of trench tree at the old Kayangan village, interior charred surface residues on 2 earthenware sherds from trench tree where a bale or house previously stood were analyzed for bulk stable isotopes. So although only 2 shares from 2012 fieldwork were analyzed, they produced different and interesting results. Both exhibit low delta 15N values between 1 and 5 parts per million, indicating a plant source. However, the difference in delta 13C values between the two samples suggests that different types of plant foods were cooked in the 2 pottery vessels. A C3 plant food was cooked in the vessel of sherd number 3832, and a C4 plant food was cooked in the vessel of sherd number 3996. Preliminary findings from chart organic residue analysis and archaeobotanical analysis suggest there is no evidence for rice cultivation, processing, and cooking at the old Kayangan village prior to the Little Ice Age around AD 1300 and Spanish colonization around AD 1565 of the Philippines. These findings reflect the cultivation, processing, and cooking of other starchy sources such as taro, yam, breadfruit, arrowroot, palms, and an unidentified C4 plant. So it's unknown. My dissertation research done in University of Florida was focused on earthenware pottery vessels from prehistoric southern Vietnam or Mekong Delta. So this involved the settlement sites of Rak Nui, the one nearest the coast, if you see it in the map, then Anshon. So Rak Nui and Anshon are Neolithic sites, as well as Logak and Go-Ochua sites during the Metal Age. And they are all located in the province of Long An, in the southernmost province of Vietnam. Majority of the pottery vessels collected from 4 prehistoric sites in southern Vietnam are restricted pots. The majority of pottery from these sites with results were possibly used to prepare and serve plant food sources, in particular leafy and waxy plants, similar to our leafy vegetables that we consume today. These lipid compounds are the series of mid-long chain fatty acids, alkanes, and alcohols. 3 pottery vessels have results indicating the preparation and service of plants and aquatic sources, and another vessel indicates cooking of freshwater fish. The combined results from the bulk, stable, and compound-specific isotopic analysis of food grass on the pot from the site of Logak, along with fish remains, indicate that this pot was used for cooking, probably stewing freshwater fish, similar to the present-day kakoto or braised fish in caramel on clay pot in southern Vietnam. 8 pottery vessels, but only the lipid profiles of 4 are shown here from Anshon, Logak, and Go-Ochua sites. These are the sites found in the interior part of Long An, have series of fatty acids, alkanes, alcohols, and terpenoids with a particular lipid profile. Minding the green highlights only, their amount of C16 fatty acid is at least twice the amount of C18 fatty acid. Their dominant long-chain alcohol is tetracosanol, or the alcohol with 24 carbons, followed by hexacosanol, or the alcohol with 26 carbons. They also have tetracosanyl palmitate, or C40 wax ester, or the wax ester with 40 carbons. These 4 of them shown in the slide have colored viscous residue extracts. None of the pottery samples from Rak Nui, the site closest to the coast, have residues with this lipid profile. With stable isotope results, this C3 plant source could be waxy leafy vegetables. Only the open bowl from Anshon at the upper left has pitanic acid, which is one of the biomarkers for aquatic sources in its fatty acid profile. The bulk carbon and nitrogen isotope results of the charred surface residues on the pot at the upper right also support the cooking of aquatic sources. If you're thinking that this is kangkong or the swamp cabbage, unfortunately it's not, because they have a different profile from the from the swamp cabbage. From this, continuity of culinary practices involving the usage of earthenware pottery vessels to prepare and serve plant and sometimes aquatic food sources is observed from Neolithic to Metal Age. This continuity is also demonstrated by the usage of pottery for preparing and serving a common or related C3 waxy leafy plant food sources with a specific biomolecular signature available within the vicinities of Anshon, Logak, and Koochoa. The absence of this plant source at Rak Nui may indicate that this food source was only available in a specific area away from Rak Nui and the coast. The prominent results highlight the importance of plant food sources and vessel plant aquatic source combination in maintaining and promoting identity in Mekong Delta. It's interesting that in present-day Vietnam, the people have very high emphasis on leafy vegetables, and coincidentally, the results of my study agree to their present-day food ways. Further work, such as follow-up analysis, are planned for these 3 vignettes and my other projects. I intend to continue this research endeavor here or abroad. So, of course, I am very open for collaboration. These projects and other related endeavors that incorporate scientific techniques into the study of Asian foodways seek to promote discovery, understanding, and appreciation of long-term culinary heritage in Southeast Asia, where insights will possibly encourage discussions on if foodways related practices reflect the availability of food sources in the environment, how people experience environmental change, how they identify themselves as part of a community or as part of an ethnic group, if food diversity reflect perceptions of food security, sustainability, and resilience, especially during the times of pandemic, like presently we have the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the consideration of long-term perspectives by government agencies to formulate better food-related policies and programs for the benefit of the people. Thank you very much. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Understanding and appreciation of long-term culinary heritage.
Thank you, Dr. Eusebio, for a great presentation. It's an eye-opener that we can really eat from organic residues.